Hello, welcome back. Today we're talking about Friday the 13th Part 2, released by Paramount Pictures. Original theatrical release date Friday, April 30th, 1981. It was directed by Steve Miner and written by Ron Kurz. Shot on a budget of $1 million, it saw box office returns of $21.7 million, which adjusted for inflation in 2020 dollars is $62,048,631.46. While director Sean S. Cunningham didn't return for the second entry into the series, his wife would do most of the editing work on the film. Of note, Harry Manfredini would return to and compose the score for the movie. We begin with a young girl splashing through the puddles, singing Itsy Bitsy Spider. When she's called home by her mother, we see a pair of work boots appear and head towards a certain home. Inside, our surviving protagonist from the first film, final girl Alice Hardy, is sleeping and having a night which serves as a flashback sequence from the previous films, sees her decapitate Pamela Voorhees and Jason's emergence from Crystal Lake. She wakes up clearly startled and takes a phone call from her mom. Then we get the refrigerator reveal of Betsy Palmer's decapitated head. Alice screams and we see the ice pick get jammed into the side of her head, and our former final girl is DOA. We meet Jeff and Sandra as they pull into town in his gorgeous lifted Chevy Square body. As they're using the payphone, Crazy Ralph of course tells them they're doomed. We meet the bulk of our counselors in the next scene as we have our director of the camp running the trainees through their itinerary for the stay. Ginny arrives, who's Paul's assistant. He runs the camp and it's established they're in a relationship. That night at a campfire, Paul dumps a whole lot of exposition on our counselors and the backstory of Jason Voorhees and tells the gang that they're the first to return to the lake since the murders occurred at Camp Crystal Lake. Meanwhile, Crazy Ralph is creeping around in the woods. Auspiciously, he watches Ginny and Paul kiss when he's suddenly strangled around a tree with a piece of wire. Sandra talks Jeff into walking to Camp Crystal Lake, and they intrepidly stroll through the woods to the original camp. On their walk, we see our antagonist is within arm's reach of them as he steps from behind a tree right after they walk past, and they find what they think is the remains of a dog ripped apart and mangled when they're brought in by the local sheriff, namely Muffin. Our sheriff is leaving the camp when he sees someone run across the road into the woods and pursues them on foot, which is absolutely hilarious considering how out of shape this guy is. Until he arrives at a dilapidated shack in the middle of nowhere and investigates, which really never sounds like a good idea. He finds the room with Mrs. Voorhees' head and then is killed with a claw hammer to the back of the noggin, in what is a pretty cool scene actually. As Scott waits for Terry, being hung in a tree after being caught in a snare and all, our killer arrives and cuts his throat while he hangs there. Terry goes back to find him dead. Paul, Ginny, and Ted are at the bar with the other counselors, aka the ancillary characters that won't die, and they're discussing Jason and if the legend is fact or fiction. Ginny believes it, but Paul, of course, does not. Jeff and Sandra are upstairs preparing to get busy, as downstairs, Vicky and Mark make plans to stay the night together, but first, she goes to her cabin to fetch a few things, which translates into her getting all dolled up for Mark. Jeff and Sandra are finished shagging. Jason's already in the cabin, heading upstairs with a spear, walks into the bedroom, jams it right through Mark's back, through Sandra down to the floor. Vicky returns to the cabin looking for Mark, Sandra, and Jeff, but Jason pops up and she sees the dead bodies before becoming one herself and getting stabbed in the stomach. Ginny and Paul find the bloody mess upstairs in the bedroom and head downstairs. And they're not alone, as Ginny exponentially points out, Paul, there's somebody else in this room. So we have a fight between Paul and Jason. Ginny literally stands there and watches him get his ass beat and maybe die. Ginny tries to hide in a closet. We get a Jason jump scare as he busts through the window. Ginny is definitely not a hide-and-go-seek champion. Where are my manners? I forgot to tell you about Mark's death. I don't want to neglect anybody based on their physical handicaps. So poor Mark wheels out on the porch waiting for Vicky to come back and engage in their night of passion, and he takes a machete to the forehead. That brings us back to where we are now. Ginny plays dress-up with Pamela's sweater, fooling Jason into thinking she's his mother, baiting him to come to her, kneeling before her. Unfortunately for Ginny, he sees the real mom's decapitated head as Ginny goes to cut him. Paul enters, and apparently he's still alive, and brawling with Jason again and again. Ginny takes her time helping and basically doesn't help him. But in the clutch, she comes through by ramming the machete into Jason's shoulder. She unmasks Jason, and the pair gasps in horror. They leave the Chateau Le Garbage and make their way back to the camp. They've hunkered down in a cabin where they hear a noise. They open the door, and I'm speaking of Paul and Ginny, of course, and it's Muffin. Good God, Muffin's alive, King. Ginny and Paul are relieved to see Muffin when, bam, one more jump scare as Jason, unmasked, comes through the window with the machete in his shoulder, disappears off screen, and it's not clear what happens. Ginny wakes up. She's in an ambulance, and that's it. We leave the rest to the viewer's imagination here, as it's never really made clear if Paul was killed in that other scrap with Jason at the end after he came flying in the window. So just to recap the entire film, Friday the 13th Part 2, here is our kill list. Number 1, Alice, stabbed in the temple with an ice pick. Number 2, Crazy Ralph, strangled to death with barbed wire. Number 3, Policeman Winslow, hammer claw to the back of the head. Number 4, Scott, throat slit with the top end of a machete. Number 5, Terry, she was killed off screen. Number 6, Mark, machete to the face. Number 7 and 8, Jeff and Sandra, double impaling with a spear. And number 9, Vicky, stabbed in the chest and sternum. There's no number 10 because we are not sure if Paul actually lived or died. So yeah, there's that. There's articles upon articles written about Paul and his death or lack thereof. And my entire thing about this movie is it left some things to the imagination. Like off-screen deaths aren't bad. There's production stills of what the scene looked like upon completion. And there's unedited scenes, I'm sure, that are available on Blu-ray. I have the DVD, so they weren't available to me. The extra features are kind of sparse on some of those. But overall, this movie was fun. I think it might have been a little bit better than Part 1 in some respects because we actually have Jason, the titular villain of the series, not his mom. But the death scenes were great. The acting is so-so. The characters, you do get involved emotionally with some of them, not all of them, but Ginny and Paul, to be exact, they're great characters. Mark is another one that I was really invested in, and he met a rather gruesome end, but cinematically awesome to see that wheelchair just flying down that staircase. So I give this movie overall, I'm going to go with a probably 6 out of 10, I'll say, on this one. Not great, not horrible, but it's a fun movie. I gave number 1 a 7 out of 10 just because it was the first film in the series and it was a trendsetter. But that's it, guys. That's all I got for you. Be sure to do all the YouTube things. If you have not yet, please make today the day you subscribe to the channel. We're trying to reach our next milestone of 350. Also, like the graphic, like Batman's telling you, bitch slap that like button for me. Do it big. Get some baby powder if you need it. And remember, I, Meetepo Queen of the Place to Be Reviews, I have been here with all of yous. And if I don't see you, you have yourselves a great day, a pleasant tomorrow, and remember, I will catch you on the next one. I'm gone. Peace.